I read this once in a book named True Love. That's the name of the book I read, if I'm not wrong, yeah. And it says one of the best choices you can make to choose a life partner is marrying your best friend. I would understand why that is because, of course, the best friend is a person that you vibe with, and it happens to be very rare to get that like from a woman and a man. Because usually, speaking of men, you can vibe with your fellow men. Although having a woman who could vibe with you the exact same way could be very rare. So if you happen to be blessed with such, then it's best not to lose a person like that. Because again, along the way in the future, finding someone who understands you and knows you inside out can really be healthy for the intimacy and the connection, and pretty much understanding each other a little bit more deeper than usual. Because again, all those that I mentioned usually happens to be healthy when a person knows you inside out. And again, living with a person for years, a lot of things tends to fade or be like up and down. You know what I mean? Although that connection and vibe that between you and your life partner happens to really last for a very long time, even when you're both old, swinging on chairs like that, talking to each other, you can still maintain that attraction by having that what you might say mental telepathy or something like that, understanding each other so much, being deeply connected and relating to each other. And another thing I would mention is choosing, and this is very important, choosing a person who would, I'm speaking on the side of men. If you choose a woman who's respectful, that is very important because again, I don't think love really becomes satisfying for a man when it doesn't come from submissiveness and respecting and obedience. And that's pretty much it. It's a simple thing. Although you would want to consider a woman who would be the role model, or what you might say, the guidance to your kids. You know what I'm saying? Not only thinking about yourself, but also the woman, because of course it takes two soldiers to make a warrior. That's what I usually tell myself. So, bringing up kids who are very valuable and well disciplined and pretty much respectful would require two individuals who are very much on a straight path, of course. And it's pretty much what I have in mind to say about having a life partner. And what I would add on that are the things that you should avoid. Now, it's very well known finding a person in a bad environment or coming from the worst roots or very complicated, it is very much important to consider the background of a person, not only her own backgrounds, but what her closest people know about her or speak about her, how they speak about her, again, and the family she comes from. That is really really something that, like I said, it's in the roots, so it will affect some way or another. And I'm not saying you should avoid a person who, because again, there are mothers and fathers out there who had complicated past, but then they turn out to be, people who were straight up, and but that requires a person who's willing to change. They say don't choose before you choose a person. You have to ask them if they are willing and ready to change, or if they are really willing to be changed. Because again, it might be a person who's sick, and how do you know if a person, and I'm not speaking literally sick, just like sick in the head, having issues and all that, and how sure can you be if that person is ready to be healing or to be healed? You know what I'm saying? You can't always be the savior, learning from experience. You have to always make a very very stable choice, and always make it something that will be two-sided, because you can't think like, yo, I've even had closest friends who would be like, I want to save this girl or something like that. I mean, you can't always be a savior, because some people are not really ready to be saved, and sometimes they are only for some temporary time, but then they get back to who they used to be. I mean, so it's like very important, if you know you're healthy mentally, emotionally, and spiritually you pick someone very similar. It's for your own good, of course, because you are looking ahead. You're not only thinking about what's now or what's given or what's on the table at this moment. Now, some things that you will know that will be set there on the table permanently or for the long run. So you think about that basically, and another thing to avoid is speaking of both genders, never pick a person who you know that they think about changing, but they're not ready. They're not already doing it, and again, because some wounds are not necessarily the kind of wounds which could be recovering. Some wounds are just forever there in some person who would they learn to live with it, but they don't really necessarily heal it. You know what I'm saying? So again, I would mention this: don't try to be a savior, and don't try to be the doctor to someone's heart. You know, if you really, really are in love with a person who's messed up or had a messed up past, you should really give them that space. They should need the space they need to recover, because again, you can't. It's like messing around with their wounds if you really push yourself too much into them, and that's very, very, very important thing to have in mind. And basically, I think that's pretty much enough for what I had to say and share.